Thank you, Sadiq. My name is Omar Ali Xashi. I'm his brother. That's who I am. I'm delighted to be here with all of you today to take part in this important community gathering. I want to thank the organizers for inviting so many people, not just from the city of Toronto, but from all over the country. And I thank all of you for coming out. You know, on my way here, I was thinking about what I would say those few minutes I would have on this stage. And I thought about all the different challenges we face as a community. And most of you are aware of these challenges. As we just saw, many of us know a family that has lost a young man to gun violence. In fact, many of those families is here, just as the mother is a good example, so God bless them. But we also know a lot of young people who graduated from university and after tens of thousands of dollars of debt, can't find a job. And you probably know a young man who, despite having never committed any crime in his life, that has become too accustomed to being stopped and questioned by the police. You guys are good people. You probably know a man or a woman who immigrated to this country with a high level of education and even higher hopes of finding a good life for their family, but only to end up working in a job for which they're overqualified. And all of us are aware of the reality of too many of our families living in poverty in one of the richest countries in the world. That's our reality as Somali Canadians. And the pain of this reality can be measured by the tears of the mothers, the humiliation and frustration felt by so many fathers, and the lack of hope among so many of our youth today. Sadly, for a lot of us, we've just learned to accept this as a normal part of life. I've come here to say, my friends, no, we don't have to accept this anymore. We don't have to accept things the way they are if we can imagine how much better they can be, and if we're willing to work hard in order to change them. As my brother Abdul Fattah said, we matter, my friends. Our community matters. Our issues matter. Our youth matter. Our place in this country matters. We matter because just like any other Canadian, we deserve to live a life of dignity and respect. Our children deserve to grow up in a nation where they know they have the same opportunities as any other child. A nation where they know they can achieve all that they want in life if they're willing to work for it. We deserve to live in safe communities with access to good jobs and quality education for our children. We deserve to be treated with respect, equality, and fairness. We shouldn't be subjected to discrimination, unnecessary barriers, or substandard treatment. Now, if we truly believe we matter, because that's the theme here, then we can no longer just sit back and accept things the way they are. Because here's the reality, my friends. When our university graduates have an unemployment rate that's many, many times higher than that of their white friends they graduated with, somebody thinks we don't matter. When neglect and lack of investment in our neighborhoods is causing increasing crime, increasing poverty and misery, somebody thinks we don't matter. When the killers of our boys won't be brought to justice because solving those cases is just not a priority, you know somebody thinks our victims don't matter. Somebody doesn't hear our mothers, their cries, those mothers who long for justice. You know why they don't think we matter? They don't think we matter because we're not organized as a people. And if you're not organized, you're powerless. For those in power, unless you're organized, you're invisible, you're non-existent. You're voiceless. The voiceless aren't heard, their issues aren't addressed, their priorities are never taken up. You see, politicians have competing priorities. It's not that they're bad people, they just have competing priorities. So they only respond to those who are engaged and organized. They only hear the grumbles of those who can help them stay in office or help remove them. Even small groups, if you're organized, they'll hear you. Now, the politicians are always nice to come to our events. They're very nice. They love to reach out, especially around election time. Their reach is long. They reach in your mosques, in your community centers, anywhere where they can find more than 2 Somalis. I've even seen them singing Somali and dancing around election time. But as far as addressing the real issues that matter to you as a community, that's just not going to happen unless you're organized. Now, don't get me wrong. Even as I talk about these things, I believe in personal responsibility. You know, as sad as the things that brought us here are, you know, the youth that we've lost, the gun violence, the boys in jail, at the end of the day, personal responsibility is very important. People who commit crime or break the law, they have to be held accountable. You know, if you join a gang or sell drugs, that's never right, and it carries a lot of risk. There is no government legislation or no amount of government funding that can replace the role of parents and community mentors in helping raise responsible young men and women. Now, having said that, there's another equally important truth. In order for people to make choices, they need to have alternatives. They need to have opportunities. So, when I just lost my train of thought. They need opportunities, yes. So that young man who is growing up in poverty in one of those neglected neighborhoods, you know that's not his choice. He already has a strike against him in life. That young woman who's a highly qualified applicant, when she sends her resume to dozens and dozens of employers, and she doesn't get a single response back because her name is Hibaq instead of Heather, well, that's not her choice. That's unjust. When so many highly qualified immigrants are forced to work in low-wage jobs because their credentials won't be recognized, that's not their choice. There's something wrong with that system. There's something wrong with those who try to explain to us why that has to continue. So while we must always acknowledge the importance of personal responsibility in solving our problems and improving our conditions, we should never be shy in reminding those in power of their responsibility to tear down the obstacles to opportunity facing so many of us. Because let's be honest, good parenting, good community mentors, that's important. But it won't resolve housing and employment discrimination. It won't do nothing to stop police harassment of our youth. You guys are all right. It won't address the lack of investments in badly needed anti-poverty programs. For those things, yes, you need legislation to be passed. You need policies to be implemented, institutions to be reformed, and yes, government priorities to be reassessed. So let all sides take their responsibilities seriously in fixing these things. As I conclude, I want to speak directly to the youth, because it's us who can make this change happen. It's us who must say enough is enough. The time for tears is over. The time for despair is done. Now is the time for action. Now is the time for resolve, my friends. We can no longer just sit back because these issues impact us the most. If we just sit back and do nothing, it'll be us and the future generation of youth that will inherit the cycle of poverty and broken dreams. It's us who will suffer the consequences from the lack of opportunities, the social and economic injustices. And the systemic barriers that block us from realizing our potential. But if we stand up if we organize ourselves, if we mobilize our people for action, get behind those young leaders that are ready to unite us and spearhead our cause, then we will get to a day when more of our youth will choose a path of education instead of only knowing a life of incarceration. When our best and brightest will be able to compete for opportunities on an equal footing without fear of discrimination. Instead of talking about the number of young men we buried because of gun violence, we'll be talking about the number of men and women we have in positions of influence. We'll have safer communities, more opportunities, more prosperity. We'll be respected. We won't be taken for granted. Our voices will be heard. And in the years to come, when we gather at events like these, it won't be to talk about how bad things are. Instead, it'll be to celebrate all the good things happening in our community. I promise you, my friends, if we stand up, if we organize, if we unite, if we work together, then God willing, those days will be here sooner than later. Thank you.